So, Mark, can we hear from you when you are resetting a room? What are the topics that you need to hit on just from a category perspective?
Awesome. Great question. So I'll always start it by praising someone on the stage that just said something. Okay. Clubhouse, I think, is really about reciprocating positivity. So I'll say, wow, Julian, that's a fantastic question. I always appreciate your insights on stage. So listen, I'm going to quickly reset the room. Okay. So that's the first half. Praise and then announce that you're going to reset or refresh.
So what you're saying is a solid transition from what just ended.
Exactly. Because let's talk about what resetting or refreshing, however you want to call it. Let's talk about what that actually is. That's bringing the conversation back to why everybody is there. You know, if you get 5 to 6 people talking on a topic, you could end up in China by the time the conversation's over. So let's bring it back to the original conversation. So praise the last person, transition with a reset. Then I might say, very, very briefly what the room's about. Thanks. We're here to help you grow on Clubhouse. Okay. Listen, there's a lot of hands on stage, or there's a lot of people on stage. There's a lot of hands up. We might not be able to get to you. Please DM me on Instagram. I'd be happy to answer your question. You might even get a shout out on the show here. Okay. So that's one call to action. DM me on Instagram. Another one, follow the people around you. Follow people to your left, to your right. There's some great creators out there. That's another one that I put into my rotation. Another thing would be if you have a club, or and we could talk about this too, if you're hosting for a club, make sure that you click that green button up top and join the club. This is a great community. You'll be alerted to all the new shows that go live. Make sure to smash that plus button on your screen, ping your friends, because we're here to help you and them grow on Clubhouse. Okay, so those are my main ones. You'll notice that I've omitted myself, although I do insert that a little bit. Hey, I'm Mark Savant. I host a ton of these rooms. I host rooms on YouTube, podcasting, social media. Make sure to follow me to get alerts so you can get on stage, right? So that's kind of the general. Those are, I think, the main 5 to 6. I also have more notes here. That's another thing I would encourage everyone. If you are going through that, you definitely want to have a notepad based on some key topics. So if you ever get stuck as a moderator, okay, I can always revert back to these 5 or 6 different topics.
Absolutely. So and it's funny, last night was definitely an example of that. The conversation was getting stale and I didn't have a good transition or anything. I didn't have another good topic. And luckily I had written down a note of a question I wanted to ask one of the moderators, and I went and used that question. So absolutely having that little notepad. But thanks for sharing those topics on how to reset a room. I usually, from my end, I keep it pretty limited. Like I said, I'm only resetting a few times. It was based on advice I was getting. The first time I hosted a room, I think I was resetting more frequently, and I got the feedback that for the people who had been there long, they were sort of complaining. And it's just sort of that, how do you strike that balance? Do you think there's sort of like, it is what it is?
Well, they need to understand that new people are coming in all the time. A Clubhouse room is like, people are in and out all the time.
Right.
You have to reset the room. You have to remind people why they're there and who you are. That's important.
It has to happen. So let's start talking tactical here. Let's shift gears on. Now we are in a room, we're moderating, we've got our panel speaking, things are going down. What are some tactics you use when the conversation starts not to go in the right direction?
So obviously the reset is an option. Reset it. One of the difficult things as a moderator or a host is, when do I cut people off? How do I cut people off? So there's different tactics to do this, but I'll say, and I'd love to hear yours, because this is not something I perfect. This is a tricky balance. One of the things that I do is I'll unmute my mic. And I'll just kind of leave it open so that person that's talking is hopefully looking at the screen and knows, okay, Mark has something to say. He's unmuted his mic. That could also be a good tell as to when other moderators have something to say, is when they're unmuting their mic. Not to be confused with clapping. Not to be confused with clapping. So that's one tactic, because it really feels bad for everyone when you cut someone off in the middle of something they're saying. What about you? How are you kind of shifting the focus back to the topic?
It's a good question. I think the first step is you open up the mic. And if they aren't getting the picture when you open up the mic, then you start using words. You start to say, okay, understood.
What do you mean by open up the mic? So you mean open up your mic?
Yeah, you open up your mic, right? And so if they haven't gotten the picture that's what you're trying to do, you're trying to talk, then you start dropping in words, right? And you start sort of like, okay, I hear what you're saying, right? And that should be a signal to them. If
I like that you agree with them. That's
it's
a good
not
way of
agreeing. It's just holding space for them that you've acknowledged them, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because if the conversation's going awry, it's likely we're probably not agreeing with what it is. But I definitely hold space for them to acknowledge them, because regardless of opinions, because I'm the go-to contrarian in almost all the conversations. I want to make sure someone feels heard, right? And I think that's important for me, at least. And so that's
kind of your job as a host, is to make sure everyone gets heard.
Absolutely. And so once that happens, and they still aren't getting the picture, they're still not relieving the mic off of their mouth, then I'm going to just do the cutoff, right? And I'm going to go, hey, and I'll give you an example of the more times than not when I'm doing it. It's when we have the format of a panel and people are asking questions. So just contextually for everyone, what that means is you have a panel of 5-6 people, or whatever your number of panelists are. They're usually your moderators, and they're there. And then what you have is you have the audience coming up, and you're bringing them up to ask questions. You're bringing these people up so they can ask their own questions. Usually what happens is at some point, someone who's been brought up, who's not up next, tends to jump
into the conversation.
Tends to jump in and take the conversation in a different direction, or asks a question when it's not their turn. And so right there, I will just jump in right away without giving them an opportunity. I'll say, hey, Mark, relax, because it's always Mark, right? No, I'm just kidding. We'll say, hey, Mark, thank you so much for jumping in on stage. We appreciate you. Just so you understand, we've got actually a group of people who are ahead of you, and I'll name off some names just to give a little bit of context. And we'll definitely get to you. If you feel that you need to talk about something really important and it's critical to the conversation, please go to my Instagram and shoot me a DM right now, and we'll address it if it needs to be addressed in this moment. But thank you for joining up. And all right, let's move over to Holly. Holly, please ask your question, and then I'll transition right there.
That's a good way of transitioning, because the reality is when that person starts, they're cutting in line. It's like someone cutting in line at the cafeteria, right? It may feel good for that person. It doesn't feel good for the 3 to 4 to 5 people that got cut, but it depends on the type of room. Some rooms are free flowing where it's like anyone and everyone come on stage. And I've seen some hosts be successful with that. But again, I think when you're trying to run, to your point, like a Q&A seminar style, you as the host, you need to control the conversation and cut in sometimes. I was in a room the other day that it was that style. Someone that just jumped on stage, they cut like 5 people and they just started talking, and the host didn't say anything. But I had been in the room for a while and I was engaging with people. So I actually said something. I was like, look, Holly, that's a great question, but like we're in the middle of answering John's question right now. Can we come back to you in just a moment?
And I offer that someone may have a bite of information that's absolutely critical to that question, and that's why I hold space for them by saying you can shoot me a DM. And usually, Mark, it's only happened once that someone's actually came back and sent me a DM where it was a valuable nugget. Most of the time, it's just they're interrupting because they got excited, they weren't sure, they didn't understand the format, or they just
wanted
to
sell something,
right? Or they want exactly. And so usually that is my barrier. My barrier is go to my DM, shoot me one, and if it's something critical, we will bring it up, and I will bring it up.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way. I think you have to do that as a host, because you're not going to make everyone happy all the time. I made a post on this on just the other day that you know, on the way up, you want to try to spread love and build up as many people as you can, but some people are just not going to like you for that. So you just got to brush the haters off. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.